To show you how to build a simple web app in Anvil. This is a demo app using Google Maps, an interactive map of locations that have been saved into a database through a web form on the other page of the app. You fill out this form, search the map, and add the location, and all the locations are saved and appear here on the other page of the app. Okay, so you can see here that this is one I made earlier. This is deployed to the web, so this is live and anyone can view this. So if I go to the Anvil homepage, this is Anvil. So full stack web apps with nothing but Python. So if I click on Start Building, so I'm logged in, so it's going to take me through to my user page. So I'm going to create a new blank app. I'm going to use the material design theme. Okay, so the way Anvil works is you use this drag and drop editor to create, build up your form components, what's going to go on the pages of your web app. You build that on here, and then you go into behind the scenes of the form. There's a code window here. There's a bit of boilerplate code ready for you, and you just edit that to change the behavior of how your web app works. It's really simple to throw together really simple ideas, and there's some really nice features that make it really easy to make stuff like this. So first of all, I'm going to rename this form. So this is going to be the form page. So this is going to be called add location map. Add location form. Okay, so you just use the toolbox here. You can drag in any components you need. So a label I can place here on the convenient place to put a title. So you can see here there's a bit of a giveaway that this is going to be available as Python code. So self.label1. So self is representing is the object that represents the page, and it's assigned a name to this label. So label1. I'm not going to need to interact with this particular label, so I'm going to leave that as it is. But I'm going to change the text just to the name of the title of the app I want to use. So location map demo should do. Oops. Demo. And that's all. Then I'm going to have, so this is my form. So I'm going to want to have a label adjacent to a text box. Again, the label, I'm just going to fill in the text. So I want this to be location name, and I don't need to change the Python reference there, but I'm going to change the role of this text, make it a subheading so it's just a little larger. But text box 1, I want to rename this because I'm actually going to interact with this component in the code. So this is going to be called location name. So that's now self.location name in the Python code. I'm going to do something similar on the next row. So another label underneath and another text box. So this label is going to be for the location, where I'm actually going to search Google Maps for my location. So again, not going to change the Python name, but change the text. So location search. And again, change that role to subheading. Now I want a search button next to this box. I'm going to drag one of those in as well. So button, place that there. So I'm going to change the text of the button to search. I'm going to make it look a bit more like a button. If I go for secondary color, because I'm going to use the primary color as my main submit button at the end. And if I align that to the left, have that next to the box, and I want to space this out a bit so that text box is aligned with this text box is aligned with this one. So if I use the spacer here and place that next to it, and that should align those up nicely. Another thing I can do with the search button is add an icon. So these icons are really handy. So because this is related to the map, I'm going to use a map marker as my icon. So search. I'm going to rename the text box component because I'm going to need to retrieve that in the Python code. So this is going to be called location search. And that's my search. Then underneath, I'm going to have a Google Maps component. I'm going to need to make that a little bit bigger. And then, so I'm going to type in a location name, type in a search, hit the search button. It will search the map and show me the result. Then, once I've confirmed the result, the only thing I'm going to need to do is just submit it to the database. So I'm going to have a submit button at the end. This I will make submit button. And I'll make that primary color. Set the icon for this. So if I search for plus like that, rename that to add location. Okay, so now if I run that, I have to give my app a name. I haven't done that yet, so I'm going to name it location map demo. So this isn't deployed to the internet yet, but it's because I'm just building it, I can hit run and just test that it looks right and that it acts right. So this is a really simple way to just quickly verify how things are going. So that's how I want it to look essentially. So I have my location name, I've got my location search button. The map is there, I can zoom in, I can use all the controls and stuff, but it doesn't actually do anything yet. So I can type in anything here. It's not going to search, it's not going to add location because I haven't told it to do anything yet. I've just created the visuals. But that is the visuals on this page essentially complete. I just need to do the interaction and the adding to the database and things like that. But I'm happy with that. So the only thing is I don't want people being able to hit this button until everything's complete and validated. So I'm going to, now I don't want to make it invisible, that would remove it completely. I just want to change the interaction from enabled to disabled. And in fact, I'm going to do the same on the search button until they've actually filled in the other fields. So I want to them to be able to type in something in here, this button to appear, well, to be enabled. So in order to do, if I want to do that, I'm going to, if I click on this and focus on it, then all the properties of that object are shown in the sidebar here. Now if I scroll down to the bottom, there are currently no events attached to any of the different actions, so you can have an event fire when this box is shown, or when it's hidden, or when it's in focus, or loses focus, or contents change, or when you press enter. So I want this to be on change. I want something to happen. So I can click this, and it will create me a method here. So this is the boilerplate code that it's given me, and it's added another method to the form class, and it's assigned this as a callback. So this code will be run when the location search box changes, or when the contents change. It has default names for things, so it just added the word underscore, added underscore change to the name of the text field there. I could actually change this to something else. I'm going to implement it first. So what do I want it to do? I want to, so you can see here, these are all the different components that are available. So if I wanted to, I could look at, so what do I want to do? I want to make the, I've still named it button 1. I'm just going to go and change that. So this button here should be called search button. So if I go back to the code, so now search button is available here. And you can see here, these are all the properties of the button. So things like that are like enabled. I can actually see all the different properties that are available. And you can also see them in the visual design editor as well alongside, and you can control those yourself, or you can control them dynamically in code. So I've already disabled it by default, So if I want to enable it, then what I have to do is, in the method, say self.searchButton dot enabled equals true. Oops, equals true. And that would actually, because this is just a Python property, so it's just an attribute that I can change. So I set it to false in the design editor, and I can set it to true in code. Now I don't want to just change it to true every time. I want to use the logic of whether the box has contents. So if I say self dot, then it's the location name. In fact, I want to do both of them, so I want them both to be filled out before I actually run the search. So location name is not equal empty string, and self.location search. I need to do .text, because self.location name and self.location text are instances of these components, so it's an object representing the component, and so things like .enabled and .text are attributes of those objects. So if I want to look at the text and say, is that equal to 0, and I can do that for the other one. So now I'm sort of booleanizing this whole thing and saying, well, if I want this to be enabled if both of these are not empty. So let's just test that straight away. So if I run that now, so it's currently disabled, but if I type something in here and type something in here, it's become enabled. It still doesn't do anything, but I've just got that basic logic working. So I could rename this. So if I want to say, I also want to attach that to the other field as well, so that it runs on both of them. But if I just rename it first, so what do I want this to be called? I want it to be called set enable search box search button. So I'm going to copy that. I'm going to go back to my design. So this has on change run location search change. Now I've renamed that, so I'm just going to replace it there. And the same goes for this one. So on change enable search button. Now I won't enable it every time, but it will run that check every time. Okay, so now the search button becomes available, but it still doesn't do anything. So if I focus on the search button and I go down to events, so now I want to run an event on click of the search button. Now I won't be able to click it if it's disabled, so that logic's already dealt with. But if I want to run an event on click on this search button, I could hit this here and let it give me a method name of its own choosing, but I can just type it in here. So if I say search for location, and press this, it's going to create the method but with my name, so search for location. So if I want to search for their location, send it to Google Maps and say give me a location out of this, I essentially want to put a marker on the map and show them, you know, is this where you want the location you want to save. So I'm going to have to use Google Maps geocoding. Now first of all, I'm going to have to add a service. So Google API. So now I've added that, it's now enabled all the Google APIs that I can now use in Anvil. And I'm going to have to enter an API key in here. Okay, so I've added my API key and I'm back at the method. So I'm going to want to search for the location with and geocode that location. Get back the lat-long, the latitude and the longitude of that location, and create a marker, add the marker, and I'll have to remember where those coordinates were. So I have to store them. So if I want to search this, then I'm going to get some results back from Google Map dot geocode address address equals. See, the autocomplete here is really helpful. It's really prompting you to kind of guess your way through the APIs and things without having to look a lot of things up. So really, you'll find that really helpful. So now all this will take a string, so I can put in some string in here and it will search for that one string, but we're not going to do that. We're going to use the actual contents of the text box. So we've already looked at that here before, so it's self.location search. So that's my search box and the text from that component. I'm going to pass that into geocode, and that's going to send back some results. Now, I'm not going to give them a list of results and say pick one of these. I'm just going to be lazy and assume that it's able to get the first result and use that one, and they can change their search and try again if they need to. So I'm just going to say results singular equals results 0, and then I'm going to pull out the geometry information. So geometry.location will give me the lat long of that particular, the first result from the results. Now what I could do at this point is just print that and just see that it's working right. So print result should, in theory, when I search, it should give me, should find me a lat long and print out the result. So let's just test that. Okay, so I have to put something in there first. So if I search for, say, pyramids, Egypt, search. Now I've got some output, so it popped up there. So print, because it's Python code, it's getting compiled to JavaScript because all this is happening in the front end, but the Python code is getting running, so print is the same way it would on in a normal Python program or a Python shell, but it comes out here to the output. Now this is just, I'm not going to leave that in the production version, it's just helpful for debugging at this point. So I've got the output there, so Google Map.latlong. It's actually it's not just a tuple, it's a latlong object from the Google Maps API. But you can see there 29, 31, so it's actually managed to retrieve the value of, I presume that's in the right place, but we'll have a look when we put it on the map. But yeah, that looks promising, so I'll stop that and go back to the code. So get rid of the print. So now we want to create a marker at that position. So we'll say marker equals, so again, Google Map dot marker and position, and now position takes a Google Map lat long object. So again, not just a tuple containing the two numbers, but a Google Map lat long object. So I don't have to do anything to create one of those because that's the result I got back from geometry.location. So this is ideal. So all I need to do is say position equals result. So now I've created a marker, but I haven't done anything with it yet. So there's a few things I'm going to do with this point and this marker. I'm going to center the map on this point. So actually, I've still called it map 1. I'm going to change that, just like it to be called map. I'll go back to the code. So self.map. So you can see that add component. I'm going to need to do that in a moment. But I'm going to center it. So Google Map.center equals, and that also takes a lat long, a Google Map lat long object. So center on that result. And I'm going to set the zoom, so I don't want it to be zoomed out at the full world. So self.map.zoom equals, say 10. I think that should do. Now, one thing I could do, actually, it doesn't make sense for the map to be shown until the search results come, so I'm going to set the map.visible equals true. Now, because it's already visible, I'm going to go back and make this invisible. So highlight the map, focus on that. You can see all the different properties here. So the current zoom was 2, for instance, and there are all these different things you can change. I'm just going to untick visible. So now it's not going to appear until it hits this line. So after it's done a search, it's going to set visible equal true. So then I'm going to self.map.add component, and all I need to do is specify the marker. So I've created a marker, I've centered the map around the result, I've zoomed in, and I've made the map visible, and I've added the component to the map. I'm just going to move that to the top. So create the marker, add the marker to the map, center on the result, zoom in, make the map visible. I will also need to take the submit button, and now in theory this should be it should be possible for them to submit at this point. So submit button dot enabled equals true, so we'll enable that. And the last thing we need to do is because we've used the lat long to place the marker, but we also want to preserve that and not let that disappear. So I'm just going to save a new property called latitude and make that and save that. So that's going to be result dot lat, and same sort of thing for the longitude. So latitude, longitude, and just to be cautious, I'm going to stick it in the init as well. So self.latitude equals self.longitude equals none. So just initialize those as none in the init. So the init runs when the form is created. So when the form is created, create latitude and longitude. So these are not new components, they're not text boxes, they're just normal Python attributes for the class. Whereas things like the map and the search button and the location name text box, those are actual components that have these extra attributes of their own. These are I'm just storing the numbers in lat and long. So they're initialized at none, and then I add them once the search result comes back. So whenever even if this function ends up being rerun, those are going to be updated to the new search values. Okay, so that's all done. Now, if we want to save it, we need to have a database that will be able to save the data to. So I'm going to need to create one. So I've got my form. In fact, we need to test that first. So if I open it up, I should be able to type in location, like I'll name this pyramids, and search for pyramids Egypt. Search for that. It's placed a marker on the pyramids by Cairo, and the add location button is enabled. Now this isn't going to do anything because I haven't set it up yet, but it's enabled at least, so everything that I've coded so far is working. So if I close that, now like we added the Google Maps API under services, I'm going to add data tables. So this is a front end to creating a database. So this is going to be a really simple example. It's just going to be a single table. This goes back into Postgres in the end, but it just gives you a simple representation of your tables within the app. So I'm going to name this table locations. Okay, so I've named it locations here with a capital in so the tabs along here will be the tables. But the Python name that it's represented underneath is under app tables, and it's .locations lowercase. So that's how I will access it. So if I click new column, I'm going to create a text column for the name of the location. Okay, so location name, that's text. Another column, a numeric column for latitude. And another one for longitude number. So I've got a text, a number, and number, location name, latitude, and longitude, and that's all I'm going to save. So that's the database done. So if I go back to my form, so what I want to be able to do is have a new event on click of this button, but I need some code that will insert the contents of this form into the database. Now, it would be possible, if I go back to data tables, for me to write directly to the database from this form page. Now, I said before, this is front end, so this stuff, all the Python code in here gets compiled to JavaScript and runs in the browser on the front end. So if you had code that had access to your database on the front end, there would be nothing to stop somebody using the console in the browser to access your database. And obviously, if you're running a production app, there's nothing to stop them running code against your database from the console and potentially deleting stuff or updating records they shouldn't have access to. So what we need to be able to do is run the database insertions and all the database stuff on the server side. So Anvil provides, everything we've done so far has been client code, so that's front end. Server code is back end code. So if I click on here, and this is also Python, so if I create a new server module, so everything in here with the yellow background is stuff that's going to be run on the server. So it's not going to be front end, it's not going to be compiled to JavaScript. It will stay as Python, but it's got a similar, it's got the same API and the same sort of code style, and you can bridge between the two. So here they've kind of imported all stuff that you'll need, and once you enable the Google APIs, it imports the Google stuff for you, just so it's just there ready to go. They've given you a little comment explaining how it works, and this is a simple function example. What I tend to do is just uncomment it and change it for my needs. So this function is decorated with anvil.server.callable. So this function is callable from the front end. So anything I write in here is secure and stays in the back end and runs on the back end and has access to your database, but you can call it from the front end. Now, obviously, you still might need to do permission checking and things like that, but you can do that in here and nobody can tamper with it. So I want a function that adds a location to my database. So I can call it save add location. So my function is going to take the location name, the latitude, and the longitude. Get rid of this. Okay, so they've imported app tables. So I'm going to type app tables dot, and the auto-completion is just giving me all the stuff that I need. So under app tables, the only thing there is locations. That's my one table. So it's just giving it to me. So I hit enter on that. Dot, and then here's all the stuff I can do with my table. So this is brilliant. This is really, really helpful. I can just guess my way through how to use this thing. So app tables dot locations dot, and there it is, obviously, add row. So add row, here we are, and that takes a latitude, a location name, and a longitude. So I'm going to use, because these are named arguments, I can pass these in any order, but so I'm going to say location name equals, and that's going to be this location name. So location name equals location name, latitude equals latitude, longitude equals longitude. And that should be enough. So I've got a function that just calls app tables locations add row and passes the three parameters, the exact three that I pass in, and pass them directly into the database. So, and because this is decorated as Anvil server callable, I can call this function from the front end. So let's see how that works. So if I go back to my form, so again, this is what the form looks like, and here's the code. So now I want them to be able to press this button. So if I on-click, you can actually just double-click on this, and that does the same thing. So submit button click is now my callback. Again, I'm going to rename this. So this is going to be add location to DB. So here, I want to use anvil.server.call And there again, my one callable function on the server side is called add location. So it's given me that as the autocomplete is given it to me as saying this is the only thing you can type in here. And if I had multiple functions, it would autocomplete and give me the options of all the others. But that's it. That's the one that I wanted, obviously. And because this is separate but bridged from the server and the client side are separate, but there's this bridge between them, I can call this function, but I'm not literally calling the Python function because I need to send a message to the server to say run this function. So I'm not passing in a reference to that function. I'm just giving it the name, so it's giving me that as a string. So that's the first argument, and then following the first argument, you pass any arguments that the function takes. So you can see here that this is a little bit in the way, but you can see that it was giving me the three arguments that I passed, that I defined in the function. So I want add location. I want to send in the location name, and in this instance, this is the form. So this is going to be self dot location name dot text, self dot location, so self dot latitude, and self dot longitude. Now remember, latitude and longitude are not component objects, so I don't need to call .text or anything. They are just numeric data that I stored here. So if I add the add location function on the server side, pass in the location name, text contents, the latitude and the longitude, that is going to send it over here, pass them through here, and run the add row method there on my table. So in theory, that should all just work. Okay, and before I test this out, we'll have to remember that I need to make sure that this function is assigned to the callback on here. So if I click add location and scroll down, now previously I clicked this and I just let it use the default event name, but I changed it, so I'm just going to paste that in there. So now that function that event is tied to this function. Okay, so I'm just going to test that works. So in theory, I should be able to type in a search, full location name, and add it to the database, and it should save. So if I use my pyramids example, so pyramids of Giza, if I want that to be what's saved, and then just enough to be able to search for the right location. So pyramids Egypt seems to do the trick. Search. It's found the location. Add location to the map. Now you can see it did something then, but then nothing happened. That's to be expected because we didn't ask it to do anything after saving to the database. So there's no success page that it goes to. There's nothing else that's supposed to happen. It's not supposed to disable the form. That's all I asked it to do. So in theory, if we're going to check the database, that stuff should be saved now, but we'll have to check. So go to data tables, and we can see there, great. So pyramids of Giza with the text I typed in, and the latitude and longitude representing that marker, that location. So great, that's all working. So one of the things that's worth pointing out is sometimes when you're on the form, you sort of expect, so I just type something into here. If I type this in, pyramids or whatever, if I press enter now, I almost expect that to happen, for that to submit the search. But this isn't a web form with a submit button that is just going to go, because that's how web forms generally work. Because this is just made out of components, and the only events you have to assign yourself. I've only assigned that event to clicking the search button, but I can also add that to on pressing enter on the text box. So I'll do that now. So we'll go back to the design, click on location search. So we've already got the event on change, so that's toggling the search button. In fact, that should be called toggle. I'm going to rename that toggle search button. But I'm also going to use another function for when they press enter. So that is search for location. So go back to here. So location search, press enter, search for location. I'm just going to make sure this is updated. So on change, and enable search button should be toggle search button. Okay, so just test that out again, just to be sure. So another place I want to go, Disneyland. So let's just search for Disneyland. Press enter, and the search worked because I've now assigned on enter, on press enter on this box to the same as the clicking the search button. So that's found me Disneyland in Anaheim, California. So I can add that to that location. Again, it's not doing anything yet, but let's verify that that's now in the database. So it should see Disneyland as well. Great. So now I want there to be a map where I can, visibly verify the, there's no point having just the database and storing them in here. I want to actually show all the markers that I previously saved on a map. So I'm going to have a separate page to this web app. So if I go click on here and create a new form, again, standard page, and rename this to location map. Now this little icon here is showing that add location form, so the form itself is the startup page of the app, the landing page of the app, but I want to set location map to be the startup form. So location map is going to have, so same again, I'm going to create a text label, put that over here. I'm going to rename, set the text of that, so this is going to be location map demo. I'm going to have the only component on here I'm going to need is the map. So place that there, make that a bit bigger. I'm going to rename that again to self.map, and that's the only thing I need on this page. So if I go to code, well, actually if I run it first, I should just be able to see that there is a Google map, but there's no interactivity. It's not going to fetch those markers out of the database yet. But on init, I can do that. So now what I need to be able to do is retrieve the the locations from the database and create markers for them like I did for the search result, but for each of them. And for that, I'm going to need another server function. So again, I can't read or write to or from my database from the server code, from the client-side code, so I have to use the server module. So I just need a second server callable. I'll just grab this bit. So Anvil server callable def get locations. So this is just simply a getter and a setter, essentially, for retrieving from the database and adding to the database. So get locations is going to take, it doesn't need to take anything. So no parameters, I just want to get them all. So again, using the auto-completion, app tables dot locations dot, and here's what's available. So you've got add row, you've got get, and you've got search. So you might be tempted at this point to go for get. After all, that's what I named the function. That's what you might think that's the function you need, the method you need. It's actually search. So get is useful for if you've got a specific record you want to retrieve. You can say get it by its ID or by a particular field. If you just want to retrieve them all, you just do a search, but without any parameters. Now, obviously, you can search, but say, oh, latitude greater than this, or the text of this field should be like, such and such, or some search parameter. But if you just don't do anything, that's going to retrieve all your results. And all I want to do is return that. So I've now got a server function called getLocations that just returns all of the rows. Go back to my location map. Now I can say locations equals Anvil self.server.call. Now I've got these two in the autocomplete, so get locations. The autocomplete's really handy for not making mistakes because you're not going to make a typo between your server code and your client-side code that relies on being exactly the same function. The autocomplete is just kind of making sure you've got that available. So get locations. There's no parameters that it takes, so that should be it. So now, in theory, that location should contain all of the locations from the database. But let's have a look what it actually contains. So print locations, and we'll run this. So again, now that I've hit run, it wasn't because I was currently viewing the map page, it was because I set that as my startup form. It's really important to know. So that's given me, so the printout has been an Anvil table search iterator. So I've got my two records in there. So this search iterator it looks like it's working, so it should have my two results in it. But I'll have to loop over them to find out. So now if I say for location, in locations, print location. Let's see what comes out. Okay, so now we've got a row object and another row object. So again, looking promising, looks like it's got the right stuff. Now that I've got print location, I can actually use square bracket notation, and this row object just gives me access to the columns and the data itself as if it was just a dictionary or something. So this row object is just really simple to read from. So I can say the location is a single location, and a location has a latitude, longitude, and a location name. So if I was to print location name, that's all I have to do. Let's just double check that, and I should see in here the two location names, Pyramids of Giza and Disneyland. Again, we're still not on the map yet, but we've verified that we can retrieve everything we need from the database. It's as simple as that. So again, all this is still happening in the init. So as soon as it loads, I want to start loading stuff onto the map. So just to refer to the docs here, so if I look at so markers, so we've already used this before, so it's actually very similar to what we did before. So I'm going to create a marker. So marker equals Google Map dot marker. Now this takes position. Now the position, remember, was a Google lat long object. So I'm going to need to create one of those. So I'll just say position equals Google Map dot lat long, and location equals location latitude and location longitude. Okay, so I don't think I need this, I just want that. So create a lat long object out of location latitude and location longitude, so just as the two parameters, and create a marker where the position is that position, and then I want to add that to the map. So this is for each location, and I want to say self.map.addComponent marker. And I don't want to center on any one in particular, I just want to place them all there. So let's see if that works. Great, so we've now got our two markers retrieved from the database, and now in theory anything we add in through the form should appear on here as well. One other thing I'd like to add is nothing currently happens, you can't view the text. All we've done is place them on the map. So it'd be nice to have a little pop-up window here, just when you click on one, just to read the text label to see what the text was. So for that, I'm going to again refer back to the docs. So there's a bit here on it's called info window. So here's an example. There we are, a place in Cambridge, a location in Cambridge, and the text label says this is Cambridge. That's all we need, basically, is a little info window that when you click, it creates the info window for you and opens it. So this single example, so def marker click, and it takes sender and event args, creates an info window with some text as its label, and this is just static text. And then it says info window.open in the map, and passes in the sender that it which one called it. So if I take this, and I'm going to use this code as my example. So because I'm in a class here, I'm going to use it. I'm going to put it here, and it's actually going to be a method. So I'm going to say add self there. So marker click I equals Google Map.info window. I'm going to leave that text there for now. This is going to be self.map, and sender comes in from here. So I've got that marker, but I need to set the event handler. So go back to the code in here. So for each one, I'm going to say I've created my marker, I've added it to the map, and I'm on the marker, I'm going to say set event handler on click, run marker click, except I'm going to use self.marker click because of the scoping here. So this belongs to this class. It needs to be a method because it refers to self.map here. So I've got to be able to access self. Okay, so in theory that should provide info windows for both locations, but the text is just going to be this is Cambridge, and I'm going to change that in the next go. So I've got my two markers. Let's see if it works. This is Cambridge. Oh, I can close it. This is Cambridge. Great. So all I need to do is replace this text with the location text. We're going to have to do something to get around the fact that this doesn't have, we need to tie the sender and the marker itself to the location because they're separate. It's separate from the click event. So what I'm going to do is on init, I'm going to create an empty dict called markers equals empty dict, and then in the loop I'm going to say self.markers, and I'm going to add each marker to this list of, this dict. So markers marker, that's going to equal the location text. So location name. So now I've got a dict mapping each marker to its corresponding text, the location name. And then in here, instead of always saying this is Cambridge, I'm going to use self.markers, and I'm going to look up the sender, which is which marker was the sender, which marker called this function. I'm going to look up sender in markers, and it's going to send me back the location name. So the text of the relevant label will be the right text for each marker. So let's test that and see if it works. So I've still got my two markers. I've got Disneyland and I've got pyramids. Excellent. So the only thing I can't do now is switch between the two views. So I can't access the form at the moment. All I can do is see the map. So Anvil doesn't have a kind of routing engine by default, so you don't have like a home page and a slash map or a slash form or something like that. There's no way of sort of navigating a way around. So you have to create marker points either through logic, so after they fill out this form, send them to this thing, or you actually have to create buttons that will send them to different places. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to create a button on each page. So I'm going to place it here at the top. So this button here is going to be called, so this is the map, so it's going to be go to form. So form button. Change it, go to form. Actually, not go to form. I'm going to say make it more human readable, so it's going to be add location. Let's right align that and make it primary so it sort of fits in. And it's always nice to be able to pick an icon, so I'm going to pick map. That one. No, I think the other one. So map. Yeah, that looks good. Okay, so we've got. No, I don't want that. I want the plus icon on this one. Plus add location on the map, and then on the other side, I want another button in the same place. This one's going to be map button. Change the text to go to map. Align right, roll primary, and this one wants to be the map. This one. Now I still need to create my callbacks on this, so click on go to map button. On click, I'm going to say go to map. Click here. And the way you do this is you just say open form, and it's given me the two pages, the two forms of the page, of the web app. So I've got, I'm currently on add location form, and I want to send them to location map. So I want location map. So the function go to map opens the map. And similarly in here, add location wants to go to form. And this is going to be open form, add location form. Okay, so test that. So my homepage view or my landing page is the map, and I can see my pointers, my markers. I can click add location, and back to the form. So I can add a location. So if I think of another one, so Big Ben, and let's say Big Ben, London, search. Yeah, let's found Big Ben, add location. Nice. I also want one of those open form on the end of the add location, so let's do that. Okay, so open form location map. I want this after adding to the database. Open form location map. So this happens. What I could also do actually is use self dot go to map. That would do the same thing. Doesn't really make a difference. So let's test that out. So again, I'm at my map. I've now got 3 locations, including London. Go to the location page and search for another one. Say Red Square. Red Square. Search. Yep, it's found that in Red Square in Moscow. Add location, and it's transformed me through to the other page of the app to see the map. So that is working pretty well. So I've got my locations. I've got Big Ben. I've got Moscow, Red Square. All being saved into the database. I've got my form that adds things. I've got the disabled buttons. I've got the validation on here. So I can't just type into here and search until I've entered the location name as well. I can't add that until both of those are filled in. And if I want to actually deploy this to the web now, all I need to do is go publish app. Now this kind of works a bit like sharing a Google Doc. So you've got this obscure kind of obfuscated link that nobody would guess, but it's technically public, but it's not really findable, not discoverable. So you could share this with somebody. So you can copy that and send it. If you're ready to actually make the app public, you click on here and you can type in a subdomain for your app. So if I want to call this location map demo, so that's available. So location map demo to anvil.app. You can even add your own custom domain if you've got your own. You can bring your own and things like that. But that one will do. So I click OK, and now if I go to that, so now I've got this link, and my app is now running on the web, and anyone can go to this. So I hope you found that useful. I think it's really fun kind of building stuff like this with Anvil, really quick and rapid to get going. I haven't left the browser, so I haven't done any sysadmin, I haven't created any instances of servers. All I've done is, with the free version of Anvil, put together a 2-page web app that has an interactive Google map, saves stuff to a database, has validation. I'm completely in control of how that happens and how that works. And you can see it's really easy to extend that and to make it do other things. So next, I'm going to show you how to deploy this app to your own server. If you want to self-host, you can take your app elsewhere and host it on. I'm going to show you how to host it on an Ubuntu server and on a Raspberry Pi.